Hi guys, welcome back to the Footy Fans podcast. This is episode 18 and today we are joined by a very special guest in Tom Allen. How are you doing, Tom?
Great, thanks. Just living the lockdown.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for coming on again. I think I found out about your YouTube quite recently and I've been watching a lot of it, and I think your story is very inspirational. The progress you've made over the past year is amazing. So I think the listeners would really benefit from hearing your story. So to begin with, if you could just let the listeners who you are, who you play for, your position, etc., just about a bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Tom Allen. I'm 17. I was about to say 16 then. I play centre mid or cam normally, but I have done shifts at right back or left back. And I'm currently at the Maidstone United Football Academy after having spent pretty much all my life in Sunday League and never stepping out of a very, very low level of football.
Perfect, thank you. So obviously you said you'd played, it's only quite recently that you've come into this sort of academy scene. What is your first footballing memory?
Um, See, I have a photo of around because everyone kicks a ball before they're like 5, but you just don't really remember it. So I've got like photos of me when I'm kicking a football around like 3 years old or something, just with my dad in the garden. But most kids in England start football around 5 or 6 in like when they join school. That's when you join a Sunday league team as well. And you start playing then. And I just started going to that. And at first, I think I went for about 3 months and I actually quit because I didn't like it. I think I was just a bit rubbish. So I stopped for about 5 months, I think, and then I started again, and then I just didn't stop once I started again.
Yeah, that's great. And from there, it's really just gone all the way, and you've achieved a great amount. From that first point, what was your youth career like in terms of just from that one point up till now?
So I was pretty average, even at the worst end of football scale, for most of my life. I played in the same Sunday league club. Actually, it was actually one club that split into two, and I was in the B team at that point, and I stayed in the B team the whole time. And I remember I I'd never scored. I scored one goal in my entire how many years was that? 6 years, I think, because I played centre back and I just kick people or kick the ball and I kick it as hard as possible. And I scored one goal in which I was asked to play for the A team one time, and we won like 10-0 or something. And they put me up front for some reason, and I missed like 10 sitters. Finally scored a goal, and I was over the moon. But that was the only goal I scored, and that was just my local team for all the way till like under 10s, I think, was when I finished. And then I moved, and so did my family. So we kind of had to leave that Sunday league team because we were like 4 or 5 hours away now. And obviously, I was looking for a new team there. I went to some, it was weird. It was like a football club, but they just trained every weekend and didn't have games. It was a bit strange, but I wasn't really into that because I liked the competitiveness. So I went and joined the local village team that didn't have anyone I knew in it, whereas the other one did. And then I just went from there. I was pretty naff still then because when I moved, I always liked the idea of playing striker, even though I was rubbish at scoring goals. I told them I was a striker rather than centre back, and it actually worked. I was like, I think I must have been on like a goal every 2 or maybe 3 games, but I still wasn't very good. And then I think it must have been under 13s. Hold on, I got a trophy somewhere. So it was 2000 after under 12s. So 2016, I think. I got moved into centre back because I'd started playing half decent, but I got moved in centre back just randomly. They still thought I was a striker, but I actually did like really well there, and I started playing more. And I think by the end of that season, I think I'd won most improved player for 2 seasons in a row. And at the end of that, I became the captain. of the team, and I still liked playing up front, but my coach knew I was best at centre back, and I'd grown a lot quicker than everyone else, so I was just like running faster than everyone else and kicking and beating up everyone basically on the football pitch, but within the rules. And then I started going forward again and like scoring. So in the end, I just ended up settling in the middle of the pitch, which was around under 15s, and I think at some point I'd started playing with the older years on the Sunday, which was the next day, and just continuing that for a few years before I snapped my ankle in a tournament final. Just in the summer when we got to a tournament with all these like teams from a Kent Youth League, which was like the best teams in the county, and we were just some village team. We got to the final, and I was playing the best football I'd ever played, and my ankle snapped, and that was great. So it's supposed to be 6 weeks out, which would have just been the summer, and the doctors mucked it up, and I needed surgery, and it ended up being 14 months out, which was pretty awful. But I always wanted to play a higher level than what I was. And I emailed the team from that Kent Youth League. Like I said, I emailed quite a few coaches. Only one came back to me, and he said I could come to a training session, even though they weren't looking for players. And then after that, he was like, yeah, actually, we're happy to sign you. And then that was Langton Green, which I still currently play for on the weekends alongside Maidstone. And then just that was last season, was my first season. And then I went to an open trial, which I applied for at Maidstone, just because I really wanted to get out of school and just practice football, because this season I was just training as much as possible. And then I got in somehow. I think COVID helped me because they weren't able to trial us all that much. But I improved all that summer, and now I'm happy that I completely fit in. Sorry for being that so long, but it's a bit confusing because it's like Sunday.
Exactly what we need to hear. And hearing, watching your videos and how you train, you can tell you've got a lot of each attribute of your football is actually very strong. And hearing now that you've been pretty much every 11 positions on the pitch, it makes sense that
I've been playing goal. I've got clean sheets in goal.
Yeah, so it makes, like, I was watching your videos the other day, and it's just like there wasn't really an aspect that was a big weakness, and I think that definitely is clear now through you saying you've played in various positions, and hearing sort of the progress that you've made. That is very good, from going to saying, admitting yourself you're a fairly not the best player.
Yeah, I was pretty poor.
To improving that much is good to hear, and I think your mentality is amazing. And moving on quite to a big part of your last year or so, I think mentality came into this a lot. So we're going to talk about your 365-day challenge, if you want to sort of run through that.
So this came into my head because during the injury I had, I was basically the most down and depressed in my life I'd ever been. It was such a bad time, and it was so awful. I cannot explain to it. And it was all centered around the fact that I couldn't play football. It wasn't that I couldn't walk. It wasn't that I was on crutches. It was just the football. And I knew that was what was missing. And because I was so desperate, I was kind of just on YouTube looking at all this football stuff. And I actually came across in my recommended, it was a video from Brandao. I don't know if you know him. He's size, but and he'd done a 365 challenge. And I saw like he was like 26, I think, which is quite old for someone trying to go pro. And I'm like, I've got like 12 years less than him. And if he's doing it then, why the hell can I not do it now with so much more time to do it as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, all I want to do when I get back is play football. So why don't I? And I really enjoy being good at football. I enjoy being better than people. I know it sounds like a nasty thing, but it is more fun when you're better than other people.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I might as well spend the rest of my time just training as hard as I can. And I decided to copy him and start a 365 challenge, because I had a YouTube channel already, but it was just something to put out. And I just fell in love with the training and the whole idea of it every single week, just putting in work, playing football every day, getting like the highlights would be at the weekend when you get a match and you'd like see how your training had helped and improved you and the progress you were making. And I just really enjoyed it every single day, just going up at it again. And eventually, after, I don't know how many days it was, I think it was like 260 or something, we got the email from Maidstone saying that I'd been accepted into the academy. So my aim at the start was basically, it wasn't to get a pro contract because I knew I wasn't good enough for that. It was just to get into a professional academy, and as 6th tier, Maidstone United classified as that. So I completed it then, and I was over the moon.
Yeah, the video was, I watched the video where you sort of announced it, and it was just amazing to see how far you came. And talking about the YouTube part, obviously we've had, Toby Raisin on here, who you might know. Connor Parsons, we haven't, but obviously he's quite a big scene on the sort of football YouTube. Brandao, as you said, and yourself. What sort of inspired you to start documenting your football journey?
Well, I think it genuinely was just that I had a channel already, and I was making like football challenges and stuff, but they were always like, they were pretty bad, if I'm being honest, and they got like 200 views at their peak, and they weren't very interesting at all. And that was like after maybe a year of being uploaded, they get like 200 views, and it was probably me about 100 of them. So I just, like, once I saw Brandao do it, then the whole football YouTube community came in, like become elite, who's like the biggest one and such an inspiration to so many. I binged watched so many of his videos, and Sheldon Tweedy came in as well, and I was just watching all these people, and I was like, I've got a channel, I don't really know what I'm going to do with content because I haven't uploaded for like 9 months because I've been injured, and I want to do this football journey as well. Let's just put them together and see where it can go.
Yeah, it's been very successful, and credit to you for that. It's been actually really good to watch. See, you said you've become elite. I mean, I think everyone on the football scene pretty much has. And to be honest, I've been binge watching your sort of stuff over the last, since I discovered your channel about a week ago. I've just been watching that as much as possible because it is really inspirational. And I think it's just great. Everyone that's posting the sort of football content, it's just really useful, especially for players that are aiming to get the same sort of way as you. Throughout your...
I think also something that really stuck out to me was whether or not I achieved my goal at the end of becoming a professional. I think it's such a cool thing to have your whole, it's pretty much the main highlights of your life all through your life highlighted on YouTube week by week or day by day. And then you can go back even like years and years in the future. If you got kids, they're like, what were you doing at this? You just show them, and they can, I just found that idea really cool. So I was like, yeah,
that is a good idea. Throughout obviously this 365-day challenge, I'm sure there was a lot of times when sort of it was really difficult. Was there ever a stage where you thought, I'm not going to go pro, I'm not going to complete the challenge?
Well, you know what, is at the start of it, obviously I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it was, because I hadn't like been in that situation and how hard working and stuff it was. I think when the winter hit, because I was getting really close, it was the same year as my GCSEs, I was struggling so much to get in like everything, and it was so dark, so I couldn't go out after school, and I've just trained day after day in my living room, and it was really like demotivating because just training in your living room, it's really not that fun. And I'd keep going, but I was just like, how am I going to get out of this to improve enough? Because I was not seeing, like, I'd like to have seen a direct improvement every single week, progress like this, but it's not that simple. Like, because I think I was training maybe 5 hours a week because I'd have a rest day on Sunday and then a game on Saturday, which isn't actually that much, but it was the most I could get in. And I think around that winter time, I was like, I might not do this, and it might prove everyone that hated on me and everyone that said I wasn't going to do it right. And that thought was just so horrifying that obviously I've been to the Maidstone trial. That was in like November. That was really early, but I thought that was a no-go because I wasn't bad in the trial, but I wasn't amazing by any stretch of the imagination. And I couldn't attend the second trial because I was skiing. So I just thought I wasn't going to get in. And basically, when the lockdown hit, I was like, so Maidstone's still there. Hopefully, we can get lucky and get in. But the rest of it, I'm just going to work and work. And then when we come out this lockdown, which I thought would be like 2 months or something, I'm going to apply to every trial and everything I can find. But after about a month of doing that training, like really hard, the news came in that I had been accepted to Maidstone. And I think the lockdown really did bless me because they weren't able to hold all the trials. And I don't think at that point I would have been good enough to get in. But because I'd done all the training afterwards, I think I was then got past the threshold of being able to get in. And in fact, gone up the rankings of the players inside Maidstone as well. And I was more than comfortable when I got there, and I managed to make the top squad in the academy, which is exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah, it's a great achievement. And was that the main thing, just thinking about everyone that you'd be proven right by giving up? Is that really the main thing that picked you up, or was there any other factors that sort of kept you going?
I think the fact was, even if I didn't do the 365 days, I would have kept going. I knew that because just how much the injury had given me motivation. I wasn't going to stop even if I'd failed, but there were a lot of people that doubted you, especially because at my school there weren't even football players, that many football players there, because we didn't do football as a school, and it was quite a like posh school, if I do say so. And yeah, there was a lot of rugby players, and just random people would just say, oh, you're not going to do it, you're not going to do it, and they'd take the mick. And in fact, I didn't know this at the time. I kind of assumed that people might think this, but once I'd completed it, I did go back and I asked my best mate, when I decided that I was going to start this, did you think I'd do it? And I was like, I really want the honest answer here, because I don't care if you didn't. And he was like, I didn't think you were going to do it at all in 365. I thought you might, but not in 365. And that meant that nobody believed I could do it, literally nobody, because I know that there was no one else, maybe some people watching on YouTube, but nobody I knew in real life. And that's what made it all a lot sweeter, because you can see in the video where I announce it, I do break down, and it's simply because of how many people told me I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely justified if even like a close friend, someone that you go to whenever, doesn't even believe in it. It must be such a great feeling when you finally do it and prove everyone.
Well, I think he always supported me. That's the thing. I'm not slating him one bit. I didn't know at the time that he didn't believe in me at all, but he pushed me every single part, and he played a massive part in me achieving it. And he was massive help along the way as well, and probably one of the main things that got me through my injury. But he didn't think I'd do it, and that's fair enough, because you can have your thoughts and feelings. And at the start, unless he understood what I was going to go through in order to get there at the start, most people wouldn't think you're going to do it. So I don't hold that against him one bit, because he was a massive part of making it there. And in fact, it just makes me a lot prouder.
Yeah, definitely. What players do you aim to base your game off?
See, I get this question a lot, and it seems to change week by week, because at Maidstone so far, I've played most of the time. My preferred position is the cam, but most of the time I've played either as the deepest holding midfielder, or just two of the centre mids, or I have done shifts at right back and left back. So it genuinely just does change from what the most recent game is and where I played in that. Because at some point last season, I thought I was going to be a left winger. I have no attributes of a left winger, because I'm nowhere near fast enough, but I was working towards being a left winger. And it's weird, but I'd like to think of myself as a goal scoring midfielder, but likes to be box to box as well. So as much as I adore people like Bruno Fernandes, I think he's a bit too skinny, less physical, and a bit too whiny for me. I'd like to think, as much as he's not a Man United player, which is annoying, I'd like to base my game around Frank Lampard, I think.
Yeah, that's a fair enough one. When I sort of wrote the question down, first one I went to was Gundogan at the moment, especially in his current form. He comes back, he
Yeah,
comes forward. I know you
yeah,
probably won't like it because he's a Man City player, but he gets goals and he pushes forward and he can do a job coming back as well. But yeah, Frank Lampard's actually a fair one as well, to be fair. Obviously, you've mentioned your ankle injury, so this might play a part in this question. But what is the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome in terms of football?
So yeah, I don't actually think the ankle injury was an obstacle really, because I don't feel I would have been on this journey without it.
Yeah.
If the ankle injury hadn't happened, I would have continued playing football at the way I was, not really training, just enjoying it. Maybe ended up semi-pro somewhere, I don't know. But that ankle injury, as much as it was so hard to get through, it genuinely made me like realize and accept how good football is for my life and how much it meant to me. And yeah, it was a massive obstacle at the time, but I think just being able to get through every single day of that year afterwards, even training during the day, during the night, in my lounge, in my living room, and just getting through every single day after day, even though I wasn't improving as much as I wanted, and I wasn't seeing the massive improvements, and I didn't have thousands and thousands of people on YouTube at that point pushing me on. I just had like 300, 400 people, maybe 100 of my friends would watch it, and some of them would even take the mic. And I just kept going in my head, believing in myself. And I think that was the main thing that pushed me, because the fact I was doing it with GCSEs on was the most ridiculous thing I've ever decided to try and do. I don't know why I decided, but I'm so happy I did. But I'm so glad I didn't have to take them. Jesus.
Yeah, you're very lucky. I think mine are this year, but obviously they've got cancelled, but we've still got to do some sort of assessment, which isn't ideal. So you've got away with it.
Yeah, I mean the mocks were bad enough, but
Yeah.
GCSE you do like 3 different exams for one subject. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah, it's not ideal.
So stressful.
Yeah. How did you deal with the challenge of sort of being mocked a little bit? Obviously, you're trying to achieve your dream, but people that you get on with are mocking you. How do you get over that?
I tell you what, the thing is, it wasn't that different. I think I'd always been a bit of a, if I'm going to use the term, a weirdo, if I'm being honest, at school. I've never really, maybe at my first primary school, I was a bit of an outsider, but I had a group of mates and I got in. And then my second primary school, I was quite happy there and everything. But that's primary school, that doesn't really count. When you move into the secondary school, I had my first secondary school. I don't even blame other people. I was a strange one at that one. Yeah, I don't blame other people for not being friends with me. I was just a bit weird then. And then eventually, after a few years, I got a few friends, and I decided to move to my second school after doing an entrance exam and getting in. And once again, I think I found a solid group of friends there. But because I was not maybe one of the prep school kids that went into that school, and I wasn't quite used to that environment, I did struggle a little bit at first. But I always seem to be friends with the really popular kids, but I don't class as one of them. So yeah, I was always a bit strange, and I guess I'd always been mocked a little bit my whole life. So I just kind of got on with it. And now I think finally, after quite a few years, I think once I finished year 11, I can finally say I'm happy and I don't get mocked by random people, and I've got solid mates. And yeah, I think I'm not a weirdo anymore. Other people might think different, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think your success now speaks for itself. So anything that does sort of come your way now, you know, it's all over the internet what you've achieved. So there's nothing really that can take you down, seeing as how far you've come.
So much more confidence as well. Even in my videos, you can see from when I first started to now, the progression of my confidence, even each week or each day I do now, I'll add more risky jokes that I wouldn't add in, or something that's just portrays me in a weird light, but it's funny for other people to watch, and I wouldn't show that before. And I'm just so much more of a confident person now. My football's grown, my YouTube's grown, and I've grown as a person, and I feel I'm a lot more confident and comfortable in being myself, and other people accept that more as well, which is brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. I think you can see from sort of a little bit earlier on in your journey, there's definitely a shyness, whereas if you watch like yesterday's video, for example, there's a lot more confidence.
Dancing, I wouldn't have ever shown that before. I can't dance to save my life, but it's funny. So
Yeah, exactly. The next question I think is going to be very useful for a lot of the listeners because it happens to everyone. How do you sort of get out of a motivational slump?
do you know what? I really struggle with this question because I ask myself this question so much when I'm in the motivational slump, and I think the thing is to just do it. And it's not motivation that you need. You have to be disciplined on yourself. You have to be really hard on yourself. And sometimes you even like negative towards your own feeling. Oh, I want to go to bed. No, you can't do that. You're lazy, whatever. You just got to be really, really like strict on yourself. And then once you've done that, say for a week or so, then the next week it becomes a lot easier. The next week after that, easier again. And it just becomes a natural routine afterwards. And I think managing to balance that is a lot harder than it seems to do when people put it on YouTube. Like I know now I'm uploading pretty much every single night, and it's very, very, people tell me about the consistency. And yeah, it is hard work, but I've done it for, I've been uploading every other day for a few weeks now, and I've hit this point where I'm like, I can add another day in every day and just go with the flow, and it's working. So yeah, that's just basically how I do it. You just got to get out, do it. Once you've done it, make sure you stick to it and don't miss a day of doing something. That is the most important thing I can stress to people, is if you miss a day of doing something, it puts your whole body out of a routine. I make sure I always go to bed at the same time, wake up in the same time in the morning. I always do the same sort of schedule in the morning, and I will always meditate before I go to bed. And if I don't do those things, it mucks up your whole motivation, your feelings, and just how you get out of bed in the morning. So that's what I do basically, just be self-disciplined.
Yeah, I think that's a massive thing. Like, personally for me this morning, I was like, right, got to wake up 6:30 and do a 5K. And you wake up and you think, Jesus Christ, I really can't be bothered. But it's just that thing. As soon as you put your trainers on and you just go, you're fine. It's just getting past that first little bit of, once you get started, it's fine. And you never regret exercise. So it is obviously, like you said,
Exactly,
it's difficult to sort of get out of that mindset at some points. But once you get started, it's just, that's the main thing. Just do the first little bit and you won't want to stop because you're doing so well.
You do it, you only feel so much better about and want to do it more. So like, yeah, that's just the simple thing. Just trust your instincts. If you feel bad, then do something that makes you feel good.
Yeah, 100%. Next question. What would you say is your biggest strength and your biggest weakness?
I tell you what, in terms of strength, see, these two are basically the same thing, but they contradict each other. In terms of strength, it's ignoring what other people think and just getting on with myself and the things that I know is correct and that I know are right and that I know that will make me better and that kind of thing. But then my biggest weakness is also not being able to take criticism. And it's basically the thing I've got to really, really work on is trying to find the balance between what is people hating and I need to ignore, and what do I need to accept in order to improve on my game. And I think I put up such a wall during that 365 challenge of against hate that I really, really struggled to take in criticism. And now I'm just bringing that wall slightly down. I'm ignoring the haters, but I'm getting in the stuff I need to take, but I still need to bring it down a little more to take in more information that's going to benefit me in the future. And I need to accept that I don't know everything, which is something I struggle with because I am quite stubborn, and because I do a lot of research and and I work hard on this kind of thing. I don't like to admit that other people are right, but they are a lot of the time, and you've got to accept that in order to grow.
Yeah, you can learn something off everyone, really. So I think you're right that it is, for a lot of people, it's difficult to sort of accept and take on board sort of constructive criticism. But once you do it, it just helps you massively, and it makes you a better person as well. So yeah, I'd say that's a good one to try and improve on. So since you signed for Maidstone, you mentioned in a video that you also sort of do your education there. Could you like explain that sort of system and what it's all about?
So I think what people don't understand about football academies is even at the top tier, say the Manchester Uniteds, the Cities, the Liverpools, they have to do some sort of education when they're doing it, because the government legally won't let you. When you're 16 to 18, you're either an apprentice, so maybe some of those players have apprenticeships from they've got pro contracts basically, say they're literally playing professional football, so they don't have to do that. But the 16 to 18-year-olds that have been offered a scholarship in order to develop through the youth teams will be doing the education, and so that's what we do at Maidstone as well. And that's how the day is split most of the time at the academy. We go in, and it's usually best if we do the work in the morning and then train afterwards, because otherwise, because we're not allowed to use the changing rooms at the moment because of COVID, otherwise the classroom stinks. So we prefer to do the work in the morning, but that's usually how it goes. We work in the morning, we train in the afternoon, and that's how the day's split.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it must be like, personally, I'd much prefer to be doing sort of, I'm guessing you just learn about sport, or do you have to learn about sort of the core subjects as well?
No, so I think you can do A levels, and but you have to do that associated with a school. And because Maidstone are an individual football academy and it's not like a college course, then we do a what's it called, a sports diploma, a level 3 one, I think it is.
Oh yeah.
And that's usually worth 2 A levels, but you can do an extended one, which I'm doing, and that can be worth 3 A levels, and you can get exactly the same grades and university points from this as you can for normal A levels.
Yeah, and I think it must, like, especially from someone like you, me, from a footballing perspective, where you just want to be around sort of sport all the time, that must be so much better. Just your theory work is around sort of what you love, so it must be.
And it's learning about the body as well, like, and there's some stuff that you can take in from this on how you improve, like, because you're learning about all the body systems and the muscular system, the cardio system, and all this stuff. It's helping you understand your body, why maybe you're hurting in a certain place, and what you can do to affect that, or what you can do to improve in certain things. And it does give you a little more understanding in that kind of thing. And it also opens up career pathways, because you're not just learning all about yourself and your body, you're learning about jobs in sports and all these opportunities that you might not have heard of before, that you can actually create a potential career in the future if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah, 100%. Quickly going back to your obviously 365-day challenge, so you mentioned about it's difficult for you to sort of take criticism on board, but was there anything that you look back on now and think, actually, I could have done this differently?
See, I really don't know, because I think that stage in my life, I wouldn't change it for anything, even if it would make me better now, because I think that's made me who I am now. Because maybe if I was a better footballer and I changed something, I wouldn't be as complete as a person. And I'm really happy with how I am currently, and that I'm still progressing. But at that point, I don't think there was any criticism, because all the criticism at that point seemed to be people telling me to stop, which is something I would never have listened to. So maybe there was a piece of football advice I'd ignored at some point, but there's things I wish I'd known, but that wasn't because I'd ignored criticism. It's just because I hadn't learned it at that point. So yeah, I don't think there was something that I wish I'd listened to.
Yeah, that's good. And I think, like you said, I think if one little thing hadn't happened, maybe it would be completely different. So I think it's good that you look back on it and think it was a good experience and I'm happy with what I got out of it. Next question is, what is a typical day for you as like a professional footballer? But do you know what it will be like outside lockdown restrictions, or have you not experienced that yet?
So I haven't experienced it yet, but I can tell you what it would usually be like. Now, it depends obviously on the season, because if it's summer, I'm going to be playing till the sun sets basically.
Yeah.
But I'll just do it as if it's summer. But I would wake up, usually we got to wake up quite early. We get the bus around 7 o'clock. And because I'm quite far away, I'll get into Maidstone and we'll start around 8:30, 9 o'clock. We'll do our education until 12 usually, or 12:30 or something, and then we have an hour's lunch break, which we can either go into town to get food or we've got food already. Then once that hour's over, we should be on the pitch, changed in our training gear and in our boots when that hour ends. So that'll be 1 or 1:30. We'll do our training session, which would finish at either 3 or 3:30. Then from that point, I would get a bus, which would take me all the way home, but I'd stop in a village just outside mine and I'd go to the gym that I'm signed up with. I'd get in a gym session. That would probably be an hour and a half, maybe, depending on how heavy or light the session is. Then if it's winter, I'll probably go home. I'll eat some food. I'll recover, edit a video, and then go to bed. If it's summer, I'm probably going to get my mates, message them, go to the cage in my local village and play until the sun sets, just 5-a-side games, because it's the most content thing I've ever done, is when you just get to play football all day. I've never felt so happy and calm as I had during the days when I did that in summer.
Yeah, that's just, I think any footballer can understand how great that feeling is. It's like no matter how long you're out there, you don't feel the achy legs, you don't feel the lungs going. It's just pure enjoyment for the whole day. What, obviously you said about the gym and your football, do you follow a specific split? How much do you do in the gym compared to your football?
So this is difficult to answer at the moment, simply because of lockdown. At the moment, I'm doing a football session and the gym session every day. The football session will usually last from around an hour and 15 to potentially 2 hours and a half, maybe, in a day. And then the gym session will usually last a minimum of an hour, and sometimes it can take an hour and a half. And that's simply just upper body, really, because for some reason my body's always been a bit disproportioned. I've always had naturally strong legs and I've not been naturally strong in the upper body, so most of it at the moment is working on upper body, but I do a lot of stuff out of the videos on my legs, just like injury prevention and little strengthening stuff, little bits day by day, just to improve them slightly. But usually so I'd do that 6 times a week and I'd have one rest day, which coincidentally is today on the Friday. And usually if I was at an academy or it wasn't lockdown, I'd train so we'd train Monday, Tuesday, and I'd go to the gym both those days. Then on Wednesday, I'd have a match with Maidstone, and I would probably take the rest of that day off to not go to the gym. Thursday, I'd train and go to the gym. And then Friday, I'd train and go to the gym. Saturday, I'd have a rest day just to completely recover before having a game on Sunday with Langton. And then I'd probably go to the gym after that game.
Yeah, so a very hectic schedule, but I think having that much definitely just helps you improve that much more, doesn't it?
Well, I also think at the moment, or not even at the moment, because I've done that for such a long time, it doesn't actually feel that much. If you genuinely think about it, you're awake for, say I get 8.5 hours sleep, I'm awake for nearly 15, 14 hours or something, and I've got loads and loads of time during that day. Say I take 3 or 4 hours out of it to do a workout and a football session. What's that leave me with? Another 10, 9 hours of the day. What am I going to do if I don't do it? So it's just getting it done, really.
Yeah, that's a great mindset to have. Next one is, how do you, if you get pressure before a game, how do you deal with it?
This is a difficult question because it does happen a lot, and I think the only thing I can really say is if you're good enough for that environment, when you get on the pitch and you get the ball, you'll know what to do. And I think a lot of it is stop overthinking. Just get the ball. You see an option, you play it there rather than thinking, oh, is that the right option? What if someone else is somewhere? If you make a pass, you've kept the ball, you've not lost it, and you've done your job. It doesn't really matter. There may be a better option, but you should be scanning anyway to see that option. But if you don't see it, you haven't seen it. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't change it. So you play the ball where you see it, and you just you relieve the pressure physically, and it will do it mentally as well. Because when you get players pressing you on the ball, you get rid of that ball, put it into an area where there's no pressure. You'll feel less pressure mentally, and you'll also feel more confident because you've just done something right.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, Toby Raisin said a similar thing to you with, you've just got to get on the ball early, have trust in your ability. If you've prepared for the game and you've done everything in the build up to the match, then you'll be fine. You've got to trust your ability and trust your own training session, and then success will come along with that.
Yeah, that's totally agree.
Yeah, it's a brilliant piece of advice from him. And like you said, your advice as well is great in terms of you've just got to not overthink, just take one pass at a time, one touch at a time. And if you miss a pass, then you move on and you know to improve next time.
For sure.
So we can see from your videos that you work extremely hard on a daily basis and sort of challenge yourself physically and mentally as much as possible. But with that, it's of course important to let your muscles recover so you can go again the next day. So what do you do in order to recover?
I'll tell you what, it's a lot simpler than people think. You don't need all this fancy equipment. The best way to recover is sleep, water, and the right food. If you do those 3 things, you will recover pretty much 90% to the full recovery rate. You've got other little things that you can do, like a foam roller is a footballer's essential. Yeah. Do that for 2 minutes on each muscle, and that will maybe give you the extra 5% that you need to nearly be full complete. And then sometimes maybe I'll have a really warm bath if my muscles are sore, or a really cold bath if my muscles are tight. But it's simply, the main thing is if you're tired physically, get above 8 hours sleep, above 9 if possible, and that's ideal. Make sure you drink lots of water and eat some proteins, eat some carbs, and get some vitamins in. And that's simple as that, and you'll recover effectively as much as you can. If you're still feeling really, really sore the next day, have a rest day, because there's no point getting yourself injured, because you'll actually just decrease the training that you're doing, and it will all be not worth it. If you're really that sore, you take the time to recover. But if you've done your recovery and everything, and you've done the correct amount of working during a day, then you shouldn't really need to take a rest day, maybe once a week, like most people would do.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, it's actually the simple things that are the most effective. Obviously, you can have the ice baths, the foam rolls, contrast showers, protein shakes, but actually the fundamentals of recovery is just from sleep, good food, and yeah, just the simple stuff really helps. Hydration as well, like you said. It's a lot simpler than people make it out to be.
For sure.
So on a rest day, you mentioned your rest days today. Do you sort of, obviously got to edit the videos and stuff, do you like to read about sort of self-improvement, football sort of stuff?
See, I usually do that anyway. I don't know where the book is, but I've got a decent one now, and it's it's really good actually, and it's all about how athletes can get in their peak condition for performance. And I read a little bit of it here and there, and it's not specifically on a day. What I like to do during my rest day is, especially during lockdown, is I'll leave my big tasks that are going to take a bunch of time out of a normal training day. I'll leave them for my rest day, because then it takes up the same time that I would use maybe training or doing a gym. Say today, me and my mum, we cleaned out a load of stuff from my garden shed, which is quite big, and there's loads and loads of just absolute rubbish in there that we don't need. And we took it down to the tip, got rid of it, and we cleaned out another lot, took it down to the tip, got rid of it. And that took a few hours out of the day. But that's just something that would make me restrict my time in a normal training day, but just makes it a normal day if I did it on a rest day.
Yeah, just getting as much done, because recovery days, personally, I find them quite boring. You know, you want to be improving yourself, but you need your rest day just to sort of give your muscles a break. And I think it's definitely necessary. But I think actually I'm going to take that on board. I think just filling up the day with big tasks and make it a lot more bearable on those rest days.
Exactly. And then you don't have the guilt of not doing it during, say your mum wants you to clean your room or something. Do that on your rest day, because it gets rid of the time that you're really bored in, and you don't feel guilty for not doing it.
Yeah, 100%. That's brilliant piece of advice. So you've said that you're a centre mid sort of cam sort of player, but obviously you've played in various positions, and personally I think you've got a really good shooting ability on both feet, and you seem comfortable with both your left and right. So do you focus on that a lot in training, your shooting?
I tell you what, I think that comes more of just because a lot of my training, say before I got injured and before I was set on the professional journey, it was going down to the park, taking as many footballs as I had, maybe bringing a mate, or even sometimes we'd go 4 or 5 mates. We'd stick a person in goal and we'd just whack balls from as far as we could and get the best shots we flipping could. And because we just hit the ball time after time after time after time, it's just that repetition. And I think since I'd become a striker, when I decided I wanted to come from a NAF centre back to a NAF striker, I just practice shooting a little more, because when I go to the park to play football, it's for fun. I'd just shoot and shoot and shoot as much as I could. And I feel now when I do my training, a lot of it's technical stuff, which a centre mid should focus on. But then if other people watch the videos, they'll see I do go to another local park with proper goals and nice grass. And it's a big goal. We'll stick, it's usually me and Tom, sometimes other people come as well, but we'll stick one of us in goal. And we've got about 7 or 8 footballs we have. And we'll just get the goalie to ping it out to test your touch. You get it out of your feet and you just hit it as cleanly as you can and try and score as many as you want. And just getting those reps, we'll probably stay there for about 3 hours, and we'll probably take shifts of like 30 to 20 minutes in goal each time, and we'll swap every few like half hours or something, and then just keep shooting. And we get a lot of improvement just from hitting the ball as cleanly as possible from that.
Yeah, and I think the muscle memory of just, obviously if you're saying you're there for a few hours, I think you must get like a couple of 100 shots off in the time. So I think the muscle memory of just the same sort of movement each time definitely helps. And it's quite clear that you're comfortable on both feet and you can drill a shot quite well and you get a good ping on it. So it's clear how you're doing that. Just the muscle memory of repeating it again and again has clearly really helped you.
Yeah, and like it's also that's what most people go out to the park and do. Instead of doing their training, they'll do that, and they'll do it because it's the most fun thing to do. And if you've already done your training session for the day with all the specific, really intense stuff, and you go to the park with a mate afterwards and just do that, do not feel bad about yourself for not getting in another training session, because that is equally as beneficial just from pinging shots after shots after shots. rather than getting another really intense training session, maybe you improve a little bit more, but you're going to be really knackered tomorrow, and that training session isn't going to be as intense as the two in that day. So you end up equaling about the same improvement as you would have if you'd just gone and pinged balls. And it's simply the most fun thing to do, which is why I go and do it. And we make a lot of improvement from it as well.
Yeah, it's a big help. And I think it's one of the, it's like we said with the recovery sync, the simplicity of it actually is usually the most beneficial.
Exactly.
So you've achieved quite a big goal in the past year, obviously signing professionally. Now, looking ahead to your future, obviously you're still very young. You've got a long way to go in your footballing career. What are your short-term and long-term targets?
So to be honest, the short-term thing for me is always just to be improving as much as possible, be the best footballer I can week after week. And we'll set like mini season goals. I set massive season goals for the season coming up, but I didn't get any of them, but simply because the COVID and I haven't played any games basically. And I think I had like a 6-week knee injury at some point, which missed out loads of games. So I've not actually played that much for Maidstone yet, and I haven't been on any away trips yet, which is the most frustrating thing. But I think long-term goals for me, I've got one main goal, which is obviously the professional football, and there's two main routes which I think I'm going to go about that. Obviously, I'm at Maidstone now, and I will be for the next year minimum, year and a half actually, because we've still got half of this year left. And then after that point, it really just depends. So if I'm good enough, I would love to play first team football at that point. Now, it's whether I'm good enough is the question. Now, I believe I can be, but maybe something holds me back. You've always got a plan and have backup plans and every other option. So maybe I get an injury and I can't progress and be good enough for that first team. So my plan is currently go with an agency over to the US to play college soccer, because those 4 years you'll be playing in a professional environment. You'll be playing in a I can't speak now.
No worries.
You'll be playing in a professional environment basically for 4 years, and that development's only going to make you good enough. If you weren't quite good enough at 18, when you're 22 and you've completed 4 years of training, then you'll definitely be good enough. And I just think I've got that option, and I'm making it a possibility, and a big possibility at that, because I like the idea of US college as well. And the only thing stopping me is if I manage to get professional first team football before that. If I don't, then that's where I'm going. But I'm making that option now by I'm looking for an agency to go out right now to take me when I finish Maidstone, simply because I'm going to have that and make it an option. It's going to be a thing that's going to be happening. And if I make first team football before that, then obviously it won't happen.
Definitely. I think having as many doors open, having as many opportunities as you can't hurt at all, because like you said, if one thing opens up, great, you can progress at Maidstone and see how far you can go. But if not, America is just amazing for both men and women's football. So you can't really go wrong in either scenario, because you've got two routes that will make you a better player overall. So
win-win almost. Yeah,
exactly. It's just a great plan, and I think having, like I said, the more opportunities you can get, the better, because there's always going to be something to fall back on to help you progress as a footballer.
Yeah.
So, final question. Really appreciate you taking a chunk out of your evening. What are the three most important pieces of advice you would give to somebody like yourself aspiring to be a professional footballer?
I think this is gonna, if people watching are really gonna be annoyed by this, but they've probably heard it so many times, but it is true. And there's no secret recipe. There's nothing more than this. But there are very, very simple things that will make you the best of your ability. First one is consistency. Without consistency, you're not going absolutely anywhere. You'll be stuck where you are, and you'll regret everything. Consistency is the most important factor in making any improvement in anything in your life as a person, your football, just becoming rich if that's what you're into. Just the most important thing is consistency. I think the second most important thing is belief, and that's knowing you're going to be able to do it and ignoring what other people say. So those two come in together. And it really is, like I said before, I just ignored all those people throughout the 365 challenge. It was just ignoring them, but knowing that I was going to make it, even if they didn't think I would. And I think the third and final thing is just happiness. And this one is slightly, you might not hear it as much, but when you are happy, so much more goes for you in life. When I'm happy, my football's so much better. When I'm happy, I'm making more money. When I'm happy, my YouTube channel's doing better. When I'm happy, my life is going better. I'm spending more time with my friends. I've got so much more time, more energy, and everything is so much better. If you can find a mindset that makes you happy, then you'll be able to succeed in anything, and your progression from doing whatever you were will go tenfold, and it will go through the roof if you're happy.
Definitely, they're three great pieces of advice. I think everyone's going to take those on board, and that is all of the questions. So once again, I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me on. It's great to be on here. I do just like, I don't know why, it must be that egotistical thing, but everyone just likes talking about themselves for a little bit. So coming on and doing this kind of thing is like almost, it makes you feel special and important. So it's always good to do this. And I think if other people want to listen to you, then it's even better. So yeah, massive thanks for having me on.
No worries. It's been a pleasure to have you on. It's been massively beneficial for me, and I'm sure it will be for the listeners. So yeah, that's the end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, if you're somehow not subscribed to Tom, the link's in the description. So definitely go and subscribe. Very inspirational stuff. What he's spoken about on here is only like a small fragment of everything you'll see on a daily basis from him. So go and check that out. That'll be in the top link of the description. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week with another podcast, and we'll see you in the next one.